Welcome to episode 8 of A New Way to Love, Live, and Lead. I'm your host, Cheryne Blum, a master coach, author, and the founder of the Self Mastery Hub. This podcast is here to remind you midlife isn't a crisis, it's a climax. Each week, we'll explore how to break old patterns, build authentic confidence, and live with intention, so you can thrive in this most powerful chapter of your life. Now, here's the thing. We cannot have an honest conversation about midlife without talking about hormones. Hormones are the hidden drivers of so much in our lives, from our moods and energy to our sleep, weight, confidence, even our relationships. And yet, most of us were never taught how they work, let alone how to support them through midlife. So today, I'm thrilled to be joined by someone who lives and breathes this work, Mary Martin. She is a naturopath, nutritionist, herbalist, and the founder of Hormone Queens. Mary has passionately supported, educated, and empowered women of all ages and stages with their hormonal and reproductive health since 2003. Mary is also the founder of the Baby Builders, where she's guided infertile couples into full-term healthy pregnancies and published books on the topics of PCOS, endometritis, fibroids, miscarriage, IVF support, male infertility, unexplained infertility, and preconception care. Now at 60, Mary is on a mission to make menopause sexy, so perfect for our midlife climax conversation. She has changed the conversation, attitude, mindset, cliches, and norms around the female aging process. Her message rings true in her community of 40-plus women. Growing older, Mary says, is an honor and a privilege. Proactive health at this stage creates a quality of life, allowing us the freedom to enjoy our lives as we wish to live for many years to come. Mary and her team of hormone specialists, naturopaths, take women by the hand to lead them and to ensure they live life to the fullest. Mary's motto is, "We're getting older, so let's do it with gusto." Mary, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you as my very first person to interview on this podcast. So Mary, welcome.
Thank you. I do. I get very excited about conversations around aging and hormones and solutions, and I get a little bit fired up with the sort of feeling a bit dismissed or not knowing what to do or overwhelmed and confused at this age and stage of life, because there's a lot of things that we can do, and that's why I guess I'm loving this niche of women 40 plus.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And that's why I was so excited to have you here. And as the chief queen at the Hormone Queens, I love that so much. I mean, I had to start with the queen, right?
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about your journey from, I guess your bit of health crisis in your 20s to becoming a naturopath and a hormone expert?
Yeah, sure. Well, I was about 27 and I just started getting chest pains, and like I was sent all over the place, and just like, why are you getting these chest pains? And I'm originally from Canada, but this was all happening in Australia, and they did ECGs, and anyways, I went to I thought, naturopath. I don't even actually know what a naturopath is. And so I went, all right, maybe let's see if mainstream medicine is all saying, is this related? But this woman sat me down. She says, "Oh yeah, you've got gallstones." I'm like, "I do? Oh my gosh!" So I went and got confirmed. I had the ultrasound. Yep, you've got gallstones. I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" All this time, I've been to specialists, and what's wrong with her, and this naturopath who I've never heard of, just That's exactly what you've got. I think the beautiful thing about naturopathy with, naturopaths with my clients as well, is that we just get to the bottom of things because it's just such an in-depth consultation. You might be presenting with something, but it all dominoes to the next system. So that was my introduction. And then I thought, oh wow, I think I would really like to do this profession that I've never heard of before.
So, was that the moment you fell in love with natural medicine?
It was such an eye opener to me. Yeah, and then I started learning about herbal medicine. And I thought, wow, herbalists. So, we all used to, that's what only thing we had in yesteryears, plant-based medicine. So I found that fascinating, and I took on the diet and lifestyle things, and I ended up, getting a gallbladder removal.
Mm.
But so many things I learned with diet and lifestyle just to keep the stones not moving around. I absolutely I bought anatomy and physiology books. I looked for courses, and that's when I was a little bit intimidated because I was 33, um, to jump into a 4-year degree with a very science heavy, heavy base going, I haven't studied in a long time. But I think when you love it that much, you just go through. You just embrace all of it.
Absolutely. And I want to actually ask you more about the gallstones in a moment because I actually had my gallstone removed. I would have been around 36. So very interesting. I'd love to see if there's a link there. We'll come back to that in a moment. But I wanted to ask you, when was the moment you kind of started focusing on woman through midlife?
Oh, that would be well, initially when I was younger and in conception years, I had a company called the Baby Builders, and I just was really very privileged to help a lot of infertile couples get pregnant. But I guess as I got older, I was just sitting down with women who really felt that, the perimenopause, menopause, just the aches, the pains, the joints, the weight, like it was just all downhill from here. And
Mm,
uh, hearing that again and again, and I just thought, how terrible to actually, think that, believe that, and they're thinking that and believing that because they weren't feeling well. Hormones had changed and metabolism, the fat burning, everything had changed. So it's no wonder they felt it was downhill from here. But there's such key things that you can do, um, to actually make this such a vibrant chapter of our lives.
it's so true, and it's crazy to think how many women um, suffer so much with this. I know I was one of them when I kind of came into perimenopause. I was really struggling with it, and let's bust a myth right up front. What's one of the biggest misconceptions women have about hormones in midlife?
Oh, I would go with 2 on this one. I would go with, um, my mother had really bad menopause, so that's my lot in life. I hear that a lot, and it's definitely
Mm,
definitely not true. Like, there's so many factors, um, to that. And sometimes, and that's one reason why I want to change up the conversation because I don't want my daughter thinking that. I want our younger generations to feel it's a time of empowerment. But I think maybe a generation or so ago, it was the change, and it wasn't to be celebrated. It was to be dreaded and things like that. So I think
mm,
women now 40 to 60, there's a lot of bit of baggage maybe left behind on that. And I guess
mm,
the other thing is that, going hand in hand with that is that, I've always had terrible periods, so it's no wonder I have terrible menopause. It's inevitable. It's just my lot in life. My hormones have never been good. And it will be so until, forevermore. And that's one that's like, oh, actually, they didn't actually have to be that way for all these years. And, some women who go into perimenopause and menopause who have had, challenging menstrual cycles, they feel it the most. because
Mm,
their hormone dysregulation is sometimes, worse than someone who's not getting any symptoms in perimenopause and menopause.
that's interesting. That's interesting.
So yeah, it's not a given, ladies. It's not a given.
Yeah, and I love what you said there as well, because it's almost like same thing with getting our cycles in adolescence. It's like a rite of passage, and we a lot of the times when we're disconnected and almost disempowered, um, we just accept these things as this is just part of our lot. And so I love this awakened and empowered, self-connected perspective of really being aware of the joys of what this change of life can offer. I really love that perspective.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, thank you. And I really invite women to come from a state of curiosity other than
Mm,
judgment, because I think as women we are very quick to judge our bodies and I don't like this or that's not working and oh gosh, I'm so bloated again today. I'm so angry. My moods are all over the place. And other than, that judgment, if you can come from a place of being curious, like, oh, that's interesting. I'm bloated again today. I was bloating on Tuesday. What was I eating that might be a common denominator? Or, oh, you're so teary today, honey. This is like talking to yourself. You're so
yeah.
teary today. What's wrong? What do you need? Do you need a timeout? Do you need a break? Do you need to change this? Create boundaries around that. And that curiosity is such a beautiful gift because there's a lot of judgment, um, within self and sometimes within from woman to woman. But that's really what
Mm,
I'm asking is to just go, yeah, that's all right. And just to be more in tuned with
mm.
what your body's trying to say from a curious point of view, other than from a judgmental point of view.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. Like, look, this podcast, my message, I'll get into it a little bit more throughout this interview, but it's all about intention. And I love that because what you're saying there is like when we are attuned, when we are aware, when we're mindful, which really comes back to that self connection and working with our bodies. And I really, really love that idea of curiosity. I love it. Curiosity is so powerful. And I want to ask you in a moment, because what you were saying about the change and the bodies and how we judge ourselves, it really affects our confidence. So let's get into that in a moment. But I want to just ask you while we're in the breaking myths part of this interview, a lot of people say like this is just aging. Um, how do you reframe that story?
Well, I think partly with the aging process, yes, there are things that are going to change, and we can't think that we're going to be the same weight as we are in our 30s. We can't be, I used to swim this many kilometers. Some things do change, but we want it to be a lovely, slow, gradual, but keeping so many things that we can do in this window of opportunity in our 40s, 50s, 60s.
Mm,
We have this amazing window to sort of look ahead and go, how do I want to feel in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? How do I want to look? What does my life look like? What will I be wearing? What exercise will I be doing? And if you can sort of go ahead and then take yourself back to where you are, you can really go, well, what do I need to accomplish? All right, I need to resolve a few things here. And what's a priority? Because sometimes it's too overwhelming to try and fix everything at once.
mm, mm,
And it's like, oh, this is all too hard. I'm not, I just, so it's just like, well, if I could change one thing, what would that look like? And, because we have this beautiful maturity, this wisdom, this life experience, these layers of the onion, so to say, we can come at life with such a different perspective. So keeping up our physical health with that, or working on emotional health, if mental health is one thing that you're struggling with, it's
mm,
just it's just a really wonderful time to sort of break it down and just take stock. It's really looking at, all right, what needs to change? How can I what can I do to pivot to, move in the direction that I want to? If I'm looking ahead these years and how I want to, like for me, energy and mobility, they're two of my goals, my non-negotiables. Like if I don't have energy, I don't have choices. If I don't have
Mm,
mobility, then I don't have choices either. So that for me, when I look ahead, just to give an example, those are two things. So if it was me and if I had really low energy, be like, all right, well, why is my energy so low? And just getting help with that, because there's very specific reasons why women have low energy. It's not like, oh, my energy's low. Oh, well, I don't know why. There's always a why. That's what I love about
mm.
naturopathy. There's always a why. And there's always a step backwards to look and get to the root cause of things.
Yes, so important. So important because, so many times we just band-aid things and look for quick solutions rather than really understanding the imbalances. I really love that concept of a window of opportunity because it kind of instantly took away that sense of overwhelm and dread. And it feels like, as you said that, I kind of was like, oh, this feels more proactive. It feels like we're taking the reins. We're being in charge of this transition a little bit more. I really
Yeah.
love that philosophy. So, so beautiful. So let's just break this down in simple terms because I think some of us are just without the medical background. It's still so confusing. So what's really happening in our hormones in our 40s and 50s and beyond?
Well, in our 40s and perimenopause it really hasn't been a common term until, sort of the last 5 years. It was all in the menopause pile. But I'm glad that we're having conversations far and wide that there is a difference, because perimenopause is women pretty, it ranges, but 38 to 48 ish, 35 to 45. And people go, oh, 30s. I'm like, I know it can happen in the later 30s, but they call perimenopause a second puberty. And they do it for this reason, because you could have been, going along, having a period all those years and just like, yeah, every 28 days and yeah, get a bit of this, a bit of that, nothing major. But what can happen in perimenopause is that estrogen, our kind of bully hormone, we got three estrogens, but the estrogen can actually really go too high before we start dropping it.
Mm.
So then we get symptoms like, heavy bleeding and clotting, and you're getting the PMS stuff, and it's, your cycles become irregular. It's like, what is going on here? It's like I
Mm.
used to get it every 28 days, but now it's all over the place, and I'm so angry, and everyone's annoying. And it's like second puberty, because does that remind you of something? The heavy bleeding, um. So that's
Well,
what
when you
that,
said when you said second puberty, I was like, oh, that explains the return of the psycho bitch that came out.
right? People just like, I just want to kill that for, it's just the tolerance for other humans around you, and sometimes for yourself can take a dive.
Mm.
So, it depends on people's lifestyles, but if stress has been a factor of that, then we have another hormone that hangs out with estrogen and progesterone and that the stress hormone is called cortisol.
Mm.
So you've been running on empty for a long time. You've been pushing through. You've been stressed for you don't even remember how long. But you just keep going, pushing. You got low energy. You got low resilience, but you got hats to wear. All the different hats that women have, and you got things to do. Well, that will really mess with your estrogen levels and drive them up, and lower your progesterone. And our progesterone is our lovely exhale. It's our calming hormone. It's our libido. It's our mood, our motivation. I've got life by the tail hormone. So if you got estrogen and cortisol being the dominance, then that calming progesterone really takes a back seat
Mm.
in the perimenopause period. So that can go on for brace yourselves up, 10 years. Like,
Mm.
it's like, well, 10 years is a long time to put up with that. Like, I've literally seen people break down, burnout, disconnect, really affecting relationships and, marriages and things like that. So it's a tough transition. And one of my greatest guides is called the Partner Survival Guide to Peri
Mm.
and perimenopause and menopause, because it just gives partners a heads up on, oh, okay, that's what's happening, and it gives, what to say, what not to say, what conversations are great to have, how can I support this beautiful woman going through that? And just a reminder, ladies, that your partner, male or female, is also, usually midlife as well. And it's a great, how are you going? How are you feeling with, if it's a guy,
Mm.
you're likely having less testosterone now. Maybe you're not feeling as strong. Maybe you're not feeling as relevant. Maybe you're not feeling as confident. So it can be a wonderful bonding time to have a conversation about, okay, here we are in midlife. What's it like for you? What's it like for you?
Mm. I love that. And, it really explains a lot because I think that with that progesterone drop, and that seesaw tip, it kind of feels like, oh, how I used to be able to cope with so much and I don't feel as resilient. And then, we can kind of be really hard on ourselves. And especially if we have been the rock for so many, um, and not being able to show up. Again, it confuses the people in our lives as well as ourselves. So that's a really great analogy and understanding of it. And so what
And with
are
menopause, just sorry,
mm,
I
mm,
didn't finish your question. With menopause, that's technically, 1
mm,
year after there's no period,
yeah.
and then you're in sort of post menopause. So really, the perimenopause is also known affectionately as the waiting room. So maybe you don't get a period for 8 months, and you have a period, and you're like, oh man, now I'm starting all over, because you still got eggs, you still got things going on. But with menopause, things to really be mindful of is that big drop in estrogen. Um,
Mm,
so the more, so in perimenopause, if you have estrogen dominance and all those symptoms, what we do is, um, really level out estrogen, progesterone, that cortisol, that fight or flight, that adrenal fatigue, adrenal exhaustion. We can
mm,
really jump in at that stage. Um, it can lead on to a more harmonious menopausal, postmenopausal time. But I work with women in all ages and stages, because then we've got to be really looking after our bones, because our bones become much more brittle. And often we get a lot of dryness, whether it's vaginal and skin, hair, nails. Like, we're starting to notice differences in our collagen levels, in our face, in our drooping skin. Then we gain weight around the middle, because cortisol, that stress hormone, and that drop of estrogen, that's what they're doing to, like, keep you alive. It literally thinks, this chick is going down. I need to store fat. If I don't store fat,
mm.
she just might die. So it's like,
Wow.
thanks anyway, but we don't need the stored fat. And that's why we get the fat stores
Mm.
around the middle, because the estrogen and cortisol ratios.
And so what are some of those common signs? You mentioned the dry skin and especially with the drop in estrogen. What are some of the signs in um, perimenopause and also going deeper into menopause, other symptoms that really show us that we're imbalanced?
Well, perimenopause is definitely the moods, the aggravation, um, the shortness, your stress response. In short, it's like, does your stress response marry up to the stress that's happened? And often women go, no, I was completely over the top. I'm a terrible mother. That's what I remind them of
Yeah.
curiosity. It's like, no, I'm not a terrible mother. I'm having a terrible day. And what do I need? What do I need? So the heavy bleeding, the clotting, the PMS, the joint pain,
Mm.
the fluid retention, the gaining of weight, and just the moods all over the shop. And in menopause, we really need to be mindful. Those things, sadly, will often, if you're having it in perimenopause, they will often carry on with you. Hot flushes, of course, they start in that period of time. Some women have hot flushes in the peri stage, and some women somewhere in the middle, like maybe not at the. It's we're such beautiful creatures that we're all so unique. But hot flushes are quite debilitating.
Yeah, they definitely
So yeah, the
can be.
menopause, like I said, that they can all carry on with that, adding hot flushes. Insomnia is a big one. It's all of a sudden it's like, gosh, I used to sleep through the night. Now I'm, 1 to 3 is an optimal, very common time to be waking up through the night. So it's really looking at that sleep restoration, because if we're tired, everything's going to be more overwhelming anyway, and let alone all these other symptoms. So sometimes it's compounding and it's overwhelming.
Yeah, completely. It can be very overwhelming. And, we spoke about it earlier of the emotional impact, because a lot of the work I do as a coach and what I'm hoping with this podcast is really helping to move people from fear to empowerment. And in essence, what that means is kind of going from self-doubt to courageous, confident, purposeful action. And so, I've had this saying throughout this podcast of like, midlife is not a crisis, it's a climax. And it's
Love
kind
that.
of,
Love it.
yeah. And that's the ideal, right? But, the reality is we're not feeling that way. And like we spoke about before, how much of this whole process affects our confidence levels and puts us into, like brings us down, lowers our mood. So how do hormones not only affect our bodies, but also our emotions and our confidence and our relationships? How can you explain a little bit about that, how that's affecting?
Well, with the bit of roller coaster going on, because I think of hormones sort of like an orchestra, and they're playing beautifully together, and they're all in sync. They've got each other's backs, and then and they start playing up, and the just everything's out, and then everything's out in an orchestra. You're like, ooh, that's that note was that, and it sort of hits with the body and the
Mm,
confidence levels. I feel it. It can begin with the brain fog.
yeah.
Because, if you're used to multitasking, if you're used to being on, used to be, the person at the meeting that has the good idea, and then you're like, "Whoa, God, what's that guy's name again? Why did I come in the pan?" Because brain fog is a big one. Honestly, I get women coming like I've got early onset dementia. This is I'm not kidding. This is my doctor won't take me seriously. I'm sure. And it's like, I know it can feel like that. Most cases it's 90 somewhat. It's not true. But because of the hormone dysregulation, because of the lack of sleep, um, because of the loss of confidence, people are going to lose confidence, and weight gain is so emotional. It's
Mm,
physical, but it's also emotional. You
yeah.
look at your body and go, oh, yuck. Like, what's happening? I can't fit into any of my clothes. And you end up trying 6 things on before something you feel comfortable. Like, it's a big confidence knock, isn't it, really? Between, not feeling fully on mentally, and then, having these symptoms, or you're in meetings, you're flushing, you're always sweating, so it's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot to take in and on. So yes, we get these physical signs, but there's nowhere to go. Like, there's no separation between physical and emotional in
Mm-hmm.
naturopathy. They're all one. So
Love
that's
that.
when you work with people, you can't, it's always working with mindset and supporting the nervous system, supporting that fight or flight response. Because if you can get your stress response under control, that's a first big step, just to go, whew, okay, I would have got really upset about that, but I handled that really well. And that's confidence tick. Yeah, I handled that. I handled that well.
Yeah,
Um,
I love that. It's so important to manage the stress. And that's why I really focus on the fear, because we don't realize how much fear is intoxicating us and distorting our mind, our bodies throwing the chemistry off. So interesting. So Mary, what would you say? What would be the first steps if a woman's feeling really overwhelmed by midlife symptoms? What were the first steps that you recommend?
Well, the most accurate reading of hormones is through saliva. And that's not offered by a GP because they don't have the capacity um, to do that. It's all through bloods, which I find very questionable. Depending on what time of the month they were taken, there's a lot of factors that can skew them a little bit. I'll look at them as a tool. So if I really want to get a blueprint on someone's hormones, it will be through saliva. Yeah,
And over time, I remember doing that in my
no, it's
40s.
one
It was
hit,
over.
one day.
Okay.
Well, depends if you're just doing the hormones, you just do a morning reading. But if you want to measure that stress response, that cortisol, the most accurate way is to measure it 4 times a day because cortisol has a very specific cycle, how it's high in the morning. So you get that energy, you've had a good night's sleep, you feel rested, you have that energy, and it slowly but surely goes down during the day. So you get that really deep restorative sleep through the night. And often, if we're in adrenal fight or flight, anything, call it what you want, burnout, we get inappropriate cortisol spikes through the night that wake us up, and we're not even awake. We are wide awake, like wired but tired is a term that
Yeah.
associated with that.
Yep.
And that's wonderful to see. It's like, oh, okay, 10 p.m., your cortisol's super high. And then through herbal medicine that regulates cortisol levels, and through beautiful nervous system nutrients, and that you can get it when cortisol is back to front. You can correct it like that. But I think knowledge is power, like you said. Like if you're fearful, but if you don't have the facts, if you don't have evidence of what's going on, I love blood tests. I love measuring vitamins and minerals, which sometimes also gets overlooked at a GP. Like throw in magnesium, calcium, zinc, B12, folic acid, iron levels, vitamin D. And not only should these levels be high, but they need to, I'm looking for vitality here, not
Yeah.
low normal. I'm looking for like, I've got lots of energy.
Yeah.
So those are a couple things that you can just do to hunt and gather things.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere in the body where you feel that there's an inflammatory response, like inflammation. I know it's, World Health Organization is the kind of catchword of our time due to our epidemic rates of dementia and cardiovascular disease and cancers and obesity, diabetes. It's, they're all driven by inflammation. But there's something that's in your body that just going on and on that you like, oh, I've had that for ages. Like that really addressing the root cause of inflammation is an absolute must as we get older.
Yeah, that's huge. I'm listening to you speak and I'm like, I want to do a whole other episode later on about the sleep and what you were saying with the cortisol, because like this ongoing cortisol response and the inflammation link is so important, and how we can sleep better. Like I just heard you say that, and I was like, it always comes back to sleeping, and the amount of times, even with myself and the tools that I have, that I still get that wired and tired feeling. So I'm going to come back to you soon for a whole episode on sleeping.
Right.
Not sleepwalking, but
And
sleeping
also
in
all the
midlife.
symptoms of inflammation, because people might go,
Yeah.
do I have inflammation? Because that's the light bulb moments, and that's what we're looking
Yeah.
for, light bulb moments for pivoting and changing.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And so what would be like 3 lifestyle or nutritional shifts that people can make to balance their hormones?
Well, one thing that I'm very fond of, and I've had about just over between 700 and 800 women go through my hormone my hormone smoothie challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Um, because we can give ourselves nutrients for our hormones every day through foods.
Mm.
And I don't know if you feel comfortable. I can give you the recipes to give to the ladies listening to start them at home. But the ingredients of we've got to attack our liver, ladies. Our liver is our
Mhm.
hormone hub. It's our factory. It's
Mm.
our everything happens in the liver. For a congested liver, hormone problems. Congested liver, weight, poor metabolism, poor fat building. So I put in a liver powder. I put in a calcium because I'm very mindful of my bones. Maca powder is wonderful for hormone regulation. Flaxseed meal, wonderful for hormone regulation. And then you've got things like um, just, blueberries, antioxidants, spinach,
Mm.
B12, folic acid, iron, then you've got banana, magnesium, potassium. There's 5 different ones, but I do have something called, MCT oil. MCT oil is
Mhm.
wonderful for energy and fat burning. Teaspoon of cinnamon, wonderful
Mm.
for fat burning. So I would have smoothies probably 5, 6, 7 days a week. And the people who have gone into smoothies, there's just no looking back. People are just like, oh my gosh, my energy is changed like within these 5 days that I've been doing these. Because we're not relying on digestive process. We're not relying, all of a sudden we're having this liquid nutrition in a cup, in a glass, in our Nutra Ninja, and we're
Mm.
drinking it. And it's like, what? This is going straight to my cells. I'm really feeling this. My cognitive function's better. People go even with hot flushes are better, libido. So that's a staple for me.
I love it. I love smoothies. That smoothies are my go-to. I do struggle with them in winter. I know you're in Queensland, so you don't feel it as much,
Well,
but
I do have
I
called
love that.
winter warmer recipes that has
Uh,
the ingredients in it, but has them in warm things.
Love it. Well, we would love the recipes, and I'll put all the details in the show notes of this episode so people can access those recipes, because that would just be absolutely fantastic. And it's interesting. You spoke about the liver. Um, just before my perimenopause started, I had rosacea, and that led me onto my health path. And then very soon after that, I found out about my gallstones and also had my gallbladder removed. And so I'm really interested, one of the things I learned about is that estrogen and hormones are produced in the liver, and it's so interesting. So I think that's really important what you were saying, of also being able to tune in to what your liver's saying and see those signs, fatty liver and the congested liver, all those signs that you were talking about, and how that also can affect our mood.
Yeah, liver's really important. Like one thing that will show, constipation.
Mm.
Definitely have a congested liver if you're not moving your bowels on a regular basis. If you're not getting hunger signals, like it's like, oh no, I get hungry first up at maybe 11 or 12 o'clock. It's like, no, that's not. We're not meant to be hungry at 11 or 12 o'clock because we've just wasted the whole morning running on adrenaline instead of food.
Mm-hmm.
Um, eh, liver, hormone dysregulation, hot flushes, heavy periods, like it really comes back to the liver. And blood tests aren't always reliable because it really, like, it's they've really got to be crazy out to get to change the levels on a blood test. But you don't need a blood
Mm.
test to know what you know. That's why I'm saying, just be your own advocate, with with your GP, with whatever, like no one's going to stand up for you but you with your health.
Love it. I love that. And like you
Tell
said, that.
you, it's just age, it's just menopause, it's just
Mm,
part of the process. It's just you just turn that sentence just completely around and just like, no, I know my body is not, it's just anything. There's something wrong with
mm,
me.
mm. The curiosity, compassion, proactivity. I love, love, love this. Um, I want to ask you about a success story, but there's a question on my mind that I want to just ask you, and it's kind of the key conversation between my friends of my group of friends of all of the same age going through this. What are your thoughts on HRT?
Oh, that's not my field of expertise at all.
Mm,
Um, I think it has its place, and I've seen women who have tried the natural route and went to HRT, even if it was temporary,
mm,
to gain great results. I've also had women who come to me and want to get off of HRT because they haven't seen it. They haven't seen a difference.
yeah.
Um, my level of training doesn't go into HRT, even though everyone's got an opinion about it, I suppose. Um, but I just can't blanket that one. It's just too.
Mm,
For some women, it's been a savior. For some women, it's just the wrong choice.
mm,
Um,
okay.
and it was probably maybe decided on a bit too quickly before trying other things, and as are antidepressants, and that's probably one of the number one cause or prescription drug in perimenopause and menopause are antidepressants.
Mm,
So that's a worry.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And yes, do they have their use? Absolutely, they've got a use, but
Yeah.
it's the tool chest of the GP. You don't. They're trying to match up symptoms with their tool chest. What
Mm.
pharmaceuticals matching up the symptoms, and it can only go so far.
Well, I love what you're saying because it's empowerment. It's learning how to balance and activate and work with our bodies. So it's really an interesting, very interesting conversation. Um, can you give us a success story? Like, what does success looks like with your clients?
Gosh.
What's
All right, I'll give you
possible?
I'll give you an I'll give you an example of what a successful woman has done through my programs, or hanging out with me. The successful woman is regulating her blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Very important not to leave long periods of time between food. I'm not a fan of intermittent fasting,
I was actually going to
especially
ask
if
you that.
there is cortisol dysregulation. So I'm looking at someone who wakes up and has their hormone smoothie, has a handful of nuts for morning tea, has their protein and veg for lunch, has a boiled egg, hummus and crackers, whatever that looks like, protein, protein, protein throughout the day. Has their protein again and vegetables at night, has minimal sugar, moderate alcohol, who's moving their body each day, from the exercise point of view, not only for liver congestion, not only for metabolism, but mental health. There's people who take on they're always moving their body, even if they're starting very, 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 very slowly.
Mm-hmm.
I find women who are successful in sort of rebuilding, they have a conversation with their loved ones. And I really love planting this seed. It's not just the guide, but it's like, all right, we've come up with some great ideas today. How would you feel about going home and talking to your kids and your partner about, all right, I've got a plan now. I apologize, and I've been a bit short with everybody around here. These are actually really reasons why I am, and I'm feeling so relieved that somebody hears me and somebody understands. But it's so wonderful to have that conversation with your loved one. It's like, look, I need a bit
Mm-hmm.
more help. I need us to be a team here. I need to delegate some things. I need to make some boundaries around my own personal time. That
Mm-hmm.
that's really, really helpful. And then people who are committing to, the rebalance of hormones and the rebalance of cortisol and nurturing the nervous system and, through natural means and being consistent and being just like you said, empowered, not like, oh, I've got to do this and oh, I've got to cut out some inflammatory foods. This is going to be terrible. It's not. It's like, wow, what an amazing opportunity I have to turn things around right now. And wow,
Mm-hmm.
even within the first week, I can feel a difference. And that's, it's the mindset as well as the physical acts, and, going to the doctor and getting some blood tests, investing in yourself. And sometimes people, I know money's tight, and I don't mean this in the meanest way at all, but sometimes people go, "Oh yeah, I got this $500 ottoman from Harvey Norman for the couch." And I'm like,
or Botox.
but, what about the hormone? Oh no, I can't afford that.
Huh.
So it's really looking at, can't I afford that? Like sometimes we just
Mm,
ask ourselves, can I not afford the $350? Well, no, that's with cortisol. It's only 167 with that, but 350 with all the, like, can't you? Like, this is a blueprint of your
mm,
life. So I
mm.
think, yeah, I hope that answers your question. It's, I have, thousands of women who have sort of followed things like that, who have turned things around, other than a specific woman.
Yeah, no, I love that. I really love it. And again, I just, you know, uh, again, like I said, this is all about a new way to love, live, and lead. And what we're talking about here is reclaiming our power, not losing our power. And so I love everything that you're saying. And it's really been such a powerful conversation. So thank you for helping us demystify hormones and reminding us that midlife is not a time to suffer in silence. It's a time to take back our power and actually thrive. I love everything you're saying, because it really is about thriving at this time of life. So I love to ask my guests, or I should say, my goal is to ask my guests, seeing that you're the first one here. I want to ask
An honor,
two
by the way.
questions.
I'm
I'm
very
so
honored.
excited. Yeah, well, like I said, I had to start with the queen, right? So, um, so okay, this is the first question. If midlife isn't a crisis, but a climax, what's one truth you wish every woman would wake up to?
Love that. Love that. One truth. I think I would go with the proactive, and just pausing. Just have that
Mm.
pause. It's called menopause. And it's, pausing is just taking stock. Okay, I'm 40 this, I'm 50 this, I'm 39, whatever, I'm going, what's with me physically and emotionally, and just make a list, write it down. What does that
Mm,
look like for you? And then in the same token, the pause comes with the pivot. And the
mm,
pivot is, this is not working for me anymore. I'm bloated. I'm literally bloated every day. I'm literally tired every day. My hot flushes are out of control. I can't sleep. The pivot. What do you do to change it? Because complaining about it, it's not, and accepting it. I think that's a
mm,
big one. Don't
mm,
accept it. We can't accept
mm.
these things in our life is too important, especially when we get a bit older. How many we've got to be really, like, mindful of that we are the captain of this ship. No one's
Yeah,
gonna come in and save us, and our incidents of things that can go wrong, they increase.
yeah,
And my last
yeah.
P is play,
Mm,
because, pause, pivot, you gotta play, be playful with life, not take
love it.
things so seriously as well, and just by getting your health back, and just, doing the going through the motions. Think of life is so playful, and that's what it's meant to be. Sometimes we get really bogged under with the really serious stuff, and then we lose that joy.
Absolutely. I love, love, love that. In fact, my next episode is all about joy. So, so awesome. And so I love those three P's: pause, pivot, and play. Even if you pee a little bit, we'll say that.
That's right.
You got to pee a little bit in midlife. Okay, my second question. Midlife is often about coming home to yourself. What does living true to yourself look like for you right now?
For me,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love this. I'm actually just reconstructing my life right now.
Mm,
And I've just noticed how much I haven't been in the moment,
mm,
that I haven't been present, that I've been saying yes to too many things. I'm overcommitting to too many things. My boundaries have been too loose.
mm,
My priorities have just, they're just have been a little bit back to front. And so now I'm going, what am I not saying no to?
mm,
Like, no to, can you volunteer for this? Can you do this speaking here? What am I not saying no to? What am I not saying yes to? Yes,
mm,
I'm going to go to the movies this week by myself. Yes, I'm going to go down to the beach. Yes, I'm actually going to go away for 2 nights and just journal and wake up and eat what I want. And the yes, what do I want to do in my business? What's the most important thing to me? What lights me up? So I guess that's where I'm at. What am I not saying no to? What am I not saying yes to? When I really looked at that, I just had this wow moment that I am not doing the best thing for myself right now. And, I think as we get older, we need to be more selfish. And selfish is one of my
mhm,
favorite words. There's no
mhm.
negative connotations to selfish for me, because
Yeah,
the more I fill my cup, the more I can give back to others. And with an empty cup, you're just throwing a little bits of water, sprinkles around of your magic, other than being fully engaged and present with people that you love.
I love that. I love that. I say instead of being selfish, be self-full. So
Mm.
that's really cool. And I love how a couple episodes ago I spoke about how we're always becoming. And I love that here you are on your sixth floor and you are becoming more and learning more and diving more into your self inquiry and self discovery and being even more present and taking yourself to the next level. So I just love that. Thank you so much for being with us. Can you tell us how can people connect with you?
Through my website is Hormone Queens with an S, hormonequeens.com. There's a range of, you can go on there and get smoothie recipes as well. Like I'll give you the link, but you can get my perimenopause, partner support guide. There's all sorts of things on there. So that's probably the best. As far as Facebook goes, I have a Hormone Queens Facebook group, but it's really kind of boring and quiet. My Hormone Queens Hub is my private group, and that's
Hmm.
really where the good conversations happen. Because I don't want to have the deep conversations about, you know, all these personal things when neighbor Jim is listening in, and, you know,
Absolutely.
colleague David is having a. So the Hormone Queens Hub is just where I love to let loose and just go deeper
Yeah.
on
Yeah. I love that.
on Facebook. Yeah.
I love, love, love that. And, I'm going to put all those details into the show notes. And, hopefully people can come back to this episode and listen. There was so much information. And, knowledge is not just power, but, this is also about action. Action is transformation. So I love that you've taken this. This is all kind of bringing us back to intentional living that we spoke about last episode. So really, really thank you so much, Mary. Thank you everybody who's listening to this. I'm going to put the link to that intentional living workshop also in the show notes, because if you didn't get it in the last episode, be sure to pick that up so you can go deeper into creating your intention. And if you loved this episode, please remember to follow, subscribe, rate, and share this with someone who needs to hear that midlife is a new beginning. And balance is the key, balancing our hormones and balancing our lives. So thanks for joining me on a new way to love, live, and lead. And remember, you're not too late. You're right on time. And your best, most powerful, and sexy chapter begins right now.